carry that out. Now, for example, Dick's Sporting Goods is now telling us they're promising $4,000 for any employee or family member on their insurance plan to access an abortion. And there's a long list of companies that are doing the same thing. You've got Levi's and Starbucks, Yelp, JP Morgan, and many others. But the point here is, Katie, is that these benefits are provided because these companies are willing to do it not just because of their philosophy as a corporation, but because it makes financial sense for them.
And as Joel and Kent just told us, that makes financial sense for corporate America. Well, yes, it does. Thanks, MSNBC. We lost our calculator and couldn't do the math on that. It turns out the companies have done the math, and they'd rather pay female employees $4,000 for every abortion they have. That's cheaper than footing the bill for, say, parental leave or adding new dependents onto the company health care plan. Babies are expensive. It's a lot cheaper to get rid of them, has concluded the HR department at Dick's Sporting Goods. But keep in mind, this is a highly progressive movement. When you have to bribe employees not to have their own family,
there's going to be a tale of two worlds. If you work for a Fortune 500 company in America today, you very well may get this type of healthcare as a...
We know that for so many women right now, there is a sentiment of despair. But again, we have to band together and not wallow. We have to do the work. The Duchess of Sussex said that this moment requires unity and for people to understand that the Constitution was written when women were second-class citizens. She added, "We're not. Certain things need to change." Now, many celebrities have spoken out about this decision, which will affect the reproductive rights of women across the country, as the legality of abortion will now be decided on a state-by-state basis.
To terminate this pregnancy, then you can choose from three options. The first option is a so-called medical abortion, or also known as the abortion pill, where you take two different tablets and they induce a process very similar to a spontaneous miscarriage. The second option is a surgical abortion, also called aspiration, which you can choose to be done either under local anesthesia, similar to a dentist when you get a local anesthesia, or under a general anesthesia where you would sleep very briefly for about three minutes. And during that time, the doctor would insert a small plastic cannula in the uterus and do an aspiration, remove the pregnancy and the tissue that is inside the uterus, which takes about 2 minutes.
This is the most frequently performed abortion technique and is typically performed between 5 and 13 weeks of pregnancy. After administering anesthesia, usually a sedative, the abortionist uses a speculum like this. This speculum is placed inside the vagina and then opened using the screw on the side, allowing the abortionist to see the cervix, the entrance to the uterus. The cervix acts as a gate that stays closed for the duration of pregnancy, protecting the baby until it is ready for birth. The abortionist uses a series of metal rods called dilators, like these, which increase in thickness and diameter, and the abortionist inserts them into the cervix progressively to dilate it, gaining access to the inside of the uterus where the baby resides. At this stage of pregnancy, the baby has a heartbeat, fingers, arms, and legs, but its bones are still weak and fragile. After the cervix is dilated, the abortionist will insert a suction catheter similar to this. This is a clear plastic catheter, firm, which has a hole through which the contents of the uterus are sucked, and these contents are dragged down and into either a syringe of this nature, a plastic syringe which can exert considerable force, or connected to a vacuum extractor, a mechanical electrical vacuum extractor. The suction machine has a force 10 to 20 times more powerful than the usual household vacuum cleaner. And using this technique, the baby is rapidly torn apart by the force of the suction and squeezed through the tubing, down the suction tube into the syringe or vacuum machine. Following the baby, the placenta is sucked out of the womb. Because the procedure is blind, that is, the abortionist is simply feeling what he is doing within the womb. One of the common problems is getting everything out, so that it's not unusual for parts of the baby to remain within the womb and parts of the placenta, which feed the baby, remain within the womb. This can lead to ongoing bleeding and infection. And in an attempt to prevent this, the abortionist will use a curette to scrape the lining of the uterus. A curette is basically a long-handled, curved blade. Once the uterus is empty, the speculum is removed and the abortion is complete. The risks of suction D&C include damage to the organs, for example, perforation of the uterus or laceration of the cervix. Potentially, injury can occur to the intestines, the bladder, or nearby blood vessels. Hemorrhage and infection can occur, and in rare instances, even death. Future pregnancies are also at greater risk for loss or premature delivery due to abortion-related injury to the cervix or uterus. I stopped doing abortions because I realized this is not right. This is not what I should be doing. This is not the medicine, the life-giving, healing medicine that I wanted to practice. And from that day, I stopped.
Some places around the world, there are two ways to do this: a medical abortion and a surgical abortion. Within the first 9 to 10 weeks of pregnancy, a person can opt for a medical abortion, sometimes known as the abortion pill. A medical abortion usually involves taking two different types of medications: mifepristone and misoprostol. The first one, mifepristone, blocks the hormone progesterone, which is needed to sustain a pregnancy. Without this hormone, the embryo or fetus detaches from the uterine lining. The second medication, misoprostol, is taken within a few days of taking the first pill. This tablet can be taken in a few ways, including orally. This medication causes cramping and bleeding to empty the uterus and to end the pregnancy. This pain may feel similar to severe menstrual cramping. The bleeding lasts up to 2 weeks. It's usually heavy and painful for about 2 days. Then the heaviness decreases over time until the bleeding goes away completely. Things that people have described that they prefer about a medical abortion is sometimes it feels to them a little bit more natural, like they're undergoing sort of a miscarriage. It can be done in the privacy of their own home, so it sometimes requires less intervention with the medical team or, fewer medical people involved in their care. But if the individual is more than 9 weeks pregnant and wants an abortion, they will have to go the in-clinic route, also known as a surgical abortion. These can be done even in the second trimester of pregnancy, which is 14 to 23 weeks after the last period. In-clinic abortions are very safe when done by a trained medical professional. Before you get this procedure done, an exam is done and a lab test and maybe an ultrasound. Medical professionals will always have a conversation with the person making the decision to make sure they fully understand the choice being made. I had to meet with psychological counseling to ensure that I was aware and mentally prepared for what I was going to go through, which, when I think back on it, is less stressful than perhaps being 22 and being faced with having to raise a child and go through pregnancy and childbirth. If the decision is to go ahead with an abortion, pain medication is prescribed. Most clinics use a mix, including narcotics and often mild sedation.
They will then use an instrument called the dilator to open the cervix. The most common type of in-clinic procedure is a vacuum aspiration, also called suction abortion. The doctor or healthcare provider empties the uterus using gentle suction with something that looks like a plastic straw. This will remove the tissue and end the pregnancy. For many people who have this done, the pain afterwards feels like strong period cramps. How early a person can get an abortion depends on where they go. Some clinics will do it as soon as the patient has a positive pregnancy test. It's best to try to get the procedure done as early as possible, as the risk of complications goes up the further along the pregnancy is. Later-term abortions, like ones done after 14 weeks, are rare. Now that we've gone over what an abortion
This little guy is about 2.5 inches long now, and believe it or not, many of his vital organs and major body systems have already formed. Mama's morning sickness is starting to wane, which means her appetite may be kicking back into gear. This is the last week of the first trimester. Woohoo! Here's something crazy to think about. If this beautiful little baby is a girl, she already has more than 2 million eggs in her ovaries. Mama's grandchildren may be among them. Baby 1 in 20 moms will actually give birth on their due date. When baby does come, she will probably recognize you in your partner's voice, but she won't get a good look at you. A newborn's eyes only make out lights, shapes, and movement. Yep, I'm adding 1 more week here because statistically speaking, a first-time mom is most likely to give birth 1 week and 1 day past her due date. So don't fret, mama. Stay relaxed, get extra rest, eat some good food, and know that your sweet baby will be here soon. Woo, what a journey! Thank you so much for watching this video.